So I am filming my wrap up for January 2016 now because why not? I mean, January is going to be over in like another day or two anyway, and I feel like I'm almost done with reading anyway, so. And yes, this is a new camera setup. Thanks for noticing. So, none of the books I read this month I have physical copy because they were all from the library, so oh well, I'm just going to be standing here the whole time, not holding anything. And almost all of them were graphic novels. The first book that I read this month was Deadly Class Volume 3, The Snake Pit, which has like a long slew of authors and I can never remember their names. But I rated this one 4.25 stars. This one, it started out really good, really action packed, but then I think after the beginning action died down near the middle, I think it kind of petered out. The action wasn't as good near the end. It kind of just lost its pizzazz. It was a good volume, and the plot did progress a little bit farther, and some things happened that I didn't expect, but I feel like it was just a little lackluster compared to volume 2. The next one that I read was a continuation of my Death Note binge that I started in the previous month. And it was, as you can guess, Death Note Volume 4, Love by Sugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata. I think that's how you pronounce it. I rated it 3.75 stars because it was really interesting, actually. The plot progressed a lot. Overall, it was really interesting and definitely made me want to continue the series. The next thing I read was, can you guess, Death Note Volume 5, Whiteout, and this one I actually only rated 2.75 stars. My thoughts on this volume are basically the same as volume 3 of this series. There was a really weird and abrupt ending. The plot wasn't as interesting, it was kind of boring. The plot was basically the same as the previous couple novels, still following Elle's investigation on who Kira is, blah blah blah. The next thing I read was Do You Even Need to Wonder Anymore? Death Note Volume 6, give or take. And this one, I just rated 3 stars. Simply just 3 stars. I didn't even write a review on Goodreads for this one. Because basically, my thoughts about it were the same as Volume 5, although it was slightly better, but not that much. Maybe just like a quarter better, but not even worth it to like write a review on it because it would basically be the same as the review for the previous volume. Then I read my first actual book of the month, which was The Rose Society by Marie Lu, the second book in the Young Elite series. I rated this one 4 stars. At first, in the beginning and middle of the book, I was like, why did I check this out from the library? This isn't even that interesting. It's kind of boring. And I felt kind of meh about it. And then I think from about the last 100 pages onward, it got really, really intense and it got so much more interesting, pretty much like the first book. Some things happened that I totally didn't expect, and there were some emotional parts, especially the ending. The ending was basically as sad as the ending for the first book. At this point, I don't think that I will be buying the rest of the books in this series in physical copy, but I will most probably finish this series. And the final thing that I completed this month went back to my Death Note binge. And it was Death Note Volume 7, Zero, and I rated this 4 stars, which is the highest rating that I have ever given a book in the Death Note series. It was by far the best volume in the series thus far. There was so much plot that was interesting, so many things happened, the plot progressed so much farther. Literal years passed. This was also the first volume in the series thus far where the ending was not abrupt, and I actually liked the ending. If you're wondering why I didn't read any other non-graphic novel books, it's because I also started Illuminate this month. And this book is huge. Can you not see? Although not all of it is like complete from page up to bottom. What am I even talking about? It's not all lined from top to bottom. There's spaces and there's other things. And it's actually a really well written book, but at the moment it's just not totally captivating. So I'm sort of struggling with it, and I also am finding a hard time finding time to read it, and I usually only read it in like weekends. So this is going to be a thing for my February TBR. Another book for my February TBR is going to be Bone Gap by Laura Ruby, which I recently became interested in. I mean, I was interested in it ever since it came out, but now I've only just checked it out from the library. Another book that's on my TBR for February is Alive by Scott Sigler. This book just seems so interesting. It's about this girl who wakes up in a coffin, which is like, what the heck? And she does not have any knowledge of who she is or where she came from or what she's even doing in this coffin. And she figures out all these other people who woke up in coffins and have no memories of themselves. It just sounds so interesting. And a book for my hopeful February TBR is 10,000 Skies Above You by Claudia Gray, which is the sequel to A Thousand Pieces of You, which was number 2 on my favorite books of 2015. See, there it is right there. I gotta say, these covers are phenomenal, and I am so stoked to read the second book in this series because book 1 was amazing. I can only imagine what the sequel will be like. Okay, that's going to be it for my TBR because I don't want to push it too far. I may or may not keep this filming setup. I mean, I still film with my iPad, but I've just figured out a setup where I could stand and have some of my books in the background at the same time. I'll just see how that goes. I may or may not experiment different parts of my room and see how they look on camera. That's pretty much it for this video then, and I don't know what I was doing with my arm just now. I will see you in my next video, and goodbye.